Today in Conversations That Convert, we're doing a builder spotlight and interviewing Jason Jewison from Personal Pride, Porches, and Decks. And Jason's going to talk all about niching down and shifting categories and sort of their journey and what has happened over the last 6 months since they started it.
Welcome to Conversations That Convert. Each week, Rick teams up with industry experts to tackle practical strategies in lead generation, marketing, and sales for remodelers, home improvement companies, and custom builders. From practical tips to deep industry insights, we cover everything you need to grow a stronger, smarter business. Brought to you by Builder Lead Converter, your perfect sales assistant.
Hey everyone, welcome to Conversations That Convert. We have a very special guest. This is Jason Jewison from Personal Pride, Porches, and Decks. Jason, welcome to Conversations That Convert.
Hey Rick, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. You have, been a builder partner of ours for about 6 months here. You've got a really interesting story to tell. Why don't you give everyone a little information on yourself and your company background, and then we'll talk a little bit more about what you have started your journey, your new journey, that is, getting to mid 2026 here.
Yeah, sure. So I'm the operations manager at Personal Pride, Porches and Decks. We've been in business since 2002. I've personally been with the company since 2006, other than there's a little brief during the COVID chaos. Moved out of town for about a year and a half. But other than that, I've been with Personal Pride since 2006. So, over the years, we've been a general contractor in the Minneapolis area. We've done pretty much anything, any type of project, residential, small projects, big projects, remodeling, new construction. We finally gotten to the point where, we just decided, even though we can do all of those projects, we decided maybe that's not the best path for us to move forward. Now we're kind of at the point where, we decided porches and decks are going to be kind of our specialty. We're still doing a mix of some exterior remodeling, roofing, siding, windows, projects like that. But for all intents and purposes, and what we're, kind of putting out into the world is that we're a porch and deck builder.
Now, as far as size-wise, and you have a business partner, I think, who runs more of the production side of things?
Yeah, so Adam's my partner. He's technically the construction manager, so he's kind of the brains behind the building. And then I kind of run the back end office operations, looking at numbers, that type of thing. So
yeah.
And then we do have Tom is the founder. He's not super involved in the day-to-day anymore, but certainly has played a big part in getting us to where we're at today. So
exactly. Yeah. So when we first met, which was in 2025, you guys primarily you're like a specialty remodeler, I would call you. So window, siding, doors, roofing, gutters, that sort of thing. And I think you, as you mentioned, you were sort of doing a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
What was your revenue, approximately your annual revenue, when you were in 2025?
2025, we did last year. So we did about a little over 2.5 million.
Yeah. So you're a nice sized company. And obviously average job size was, what was it, approximately, was it less than 50,000 for your average?
Yeah, it was around 20. So we 20, did a little over 100 projects last year.
Yeah. So you got a lot of volume, a lot of units that you're working on here. And I know you guys came to me and said, we just are sort of tired of it. We don't want to be storm chasers, right? We want to get out of this and focus on more the decks and porches. And so just walk us through, what does that look like? I guess maybe let's start with the marketing, first and foremost. And then I know you want to talk a little bit about internal operations, but let's just look at it from a marketing standpoint first.
Yeah. So the biggest challenge we had with the marketing is because we were trying to be different, we're trying to be a deck builder. We're trying to still be, doing insurance restoration work and roofing and siding and things like that. It was really difficult one for us, how are we going to build the website? You know, when somebody lands on our homepage, you know, what do we want them to see? You know, how do we want them to feel when they get there and be like, okay, what do these guys do? And so that was one of the biggest challenges. So just deciding like, okay, this is what we want to be known for, you know, not necessarily even upfront being like, we're going to completely cut all this work out. It's just, you know, deciding this is what we want to tell the world, that this is what our company is and this is what we do. Beyond that, you know, you get into different types of advertising and, you know, we've done a little bit of Google ads. We haven't done a lot of it, but, you know, whatever you do for advertising, marketing, it's all expensive. So the more channels you try to do and more people you try to target with different services, you know, the more just it was really diluting our market. Mm-hmm. You know, so I don't think it made it really hard to get traction with whatever we were doing, basically. So, you know, we try things and we kind of dip our toes in here. It's like, oh, it's this time of year. You know, we want to try to drive some deck business at the start of the year. And then we get into summer and maybe, you know, we get a little bit of a hailstorm or something. It's like, okay, well, now we need to try to push some money over there. And all it was really doing was distracting from whatever the main thing was that we were trying to do, and just, you know, doing a little bit of this. And, you know, for anybody that's ever done marketing, you know, it definitely pays to focus your money a little bit. You know, it's hard to see results with just a little bit of spend on this and a little bit of spend on that. You know, at least we've seen that, you know, the more intentional you get with what you do, the better results you get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's what part of the purpose of niching down. So I think you started with us roughly in January. And right now we're recording this here in 10th of June. So we go through our build phase, which is about a 90-day build up. I think you said we launched your website as the end of March. So you're roughly 2.5 months into it with the new website.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and what has happened since then? Since you got the new site up, you're no more niche down. And by the way, if anyone's listening, what is your website URL, Jason?
Yeah, it's personalprideconstruction.com.
So take a look at it now, and we'll mention it again. But yeah, what happened since you launched?
Yeah, so well, I mean, the first thing is, you know, I'll give you and your team a little bit of a plug here, but everybody that sees our website is like, the website's amazing. They love the website. They're like, it looks so good. As we were, you know, like we were talking a little bit before we started recording, you know, we didn't necessarily see at this point anyways, you know, a huge increase in traffic. But what we've definitely noticed is the conversion rate for people that end up on our website, the conversion from them being on our website and then, you know, filling out a contact us form or using one of the other, you know, lead magnets, call to actions, whatever you want to call them on the website. Mm-hmm. We're definitely generating a lot more leads. And I think probably more importantly is we're generating better leads. It's pretty rare that it's very rare at this point that we get a lead for the type of work that we don't want, but it's also getting pretty uncommon that we even get a lead for, you know, somebody that is like, you're definitely not our type of customer. So
market. Yeah.
So the messaging on the website, I think just the look and the feel of the website is definitely like, you know, I think when people get there, they can do a pretty good job of filtering themselves out, you know, because the website looks so good, you know, I don't think anybody's going to come to our website and think, oh, I bet I'm going to get the cheapest price from these guys. Like they're not going to get that sense at all from our website. So.
Yeah. And I remember that was one of your goals we discussed before you got into it, is like, hey, we want to not do $20,000 average projects anymore. We want to get to larger projects, move into decks and porches, and sort of really specialize in that. And going back to your website, I think it's a good point is that, you know, a lot of times builders say, well, I need to go out and I need to pay money to do this ad, or I need to, you know, do this big initiative, that sort of thing. And what I like to come back and say is, well, wait a minute, why don't we just convert more of the opportunities you already have? Mm-hmm. You know, so like every builder you have people coming into your website every single day. I say it's like a virtual showroom, right? I learned this business by working a model home, Parade of Homes, right? We're in the same market. So Twin Cities Builders Association has one of the largest parade of homes in the country. So twice a year, You're sitting in this model home and you've got literally dozens, if not hundreds of people a day walking through that home. So I was always asking myself the question, how do I slow these people down? How do I get into a conversation? How do I, capture them as a lead? And so instead of having to go out and think like, I need to generate more opportunities, it's like, no, I just need to capture more of what I already have. And I think that's what you're saying is like the opportunities were there. You just weren't capturing them, or they were the wrong opportunities. And now you just are getting more of the right opportunities, capturing them. And it's encouraging to hear too, is that people are self-qualifying and that they're not becoming a lead and then figuring out like, oh, this is you're the wrong builder for me, or in your case, you're the wrong lead for me as a builder. So it's an important point. That's where you start, is just capture more of what you currently have.
Yeah. Yeah. And a big part of that too, is, before, if somebody came to our website, they'd fill out the form, it would end up in kind of a general mailbox. And, now just the fact that they fill out the form and automatically the system, it's pushing them, trying to get them, inviting them, I guess, to, just set up a call. We're very clear that like, we're more than happy to talk to you about your project. There's not going to be a pressure. We're not going to give you a hard sell. There's not going to be any of this, make sure everybody's at home and we're going to come over and we're going to give you the 2-hour, presentation. And, you're going to have to run me out of your house. Like we're not going to do that, So, I think that's been big for people too, is like, oh, wow, cool. I can just like set up a time that's convenient for me. I can just talk about my project and we'll see if it's a fit, see if it, if it's a fit for me, if it's a fit for them, and, see if we can make something happen.
Are you doing the calls for your
Adam does most of them.
Adam does most of them. Yeah. So approximately how long does he normally spend like with a lead on that first phone call?
It depends. Sometimes it's only 10 minutes. Sometimes they run up to about a half hour. We schedule them for 15 minutes. So that's probably a pretty good average. I mean, it's really just, we're trying to understand, what they want to do, why they want to do it, when they want to do it. Depending on the project, we do try to talk, at least high level, investment on that first call, just to make sure that we're not totally misaligned.
Give them a budget range and make sure you're not wasting your time.
Yeah. And people appreciate that, like for a long time, we were always scared to talk money. We're like, oh, we got to go out there and we got to meet with them. And, if we tell them how much it's going to cost up front, they're going to be like, oh, we're going to go find somebody else. And we've actually found the exact opposite to be true. Yeah. It seems like the more transparent we are with people, the more they actually trust us, I think.
Yes, absolutely. And a lot of that change has actually come from AI search, because right now I can go into AI, right? I can ask Gemini, hey, how much should I pay for a 12 by 12 deck, on my home? And it's going to give you a number. Yeah. And the thing is with that is that AI, they're going to go someplace to find that number. So if you say, hey, how much is a 12 by 12 deck in Minnetonka, Minnesota, as an example, if you have that content on your website and, obviously it's accurate, the AI is going to reference that. Who do you think they're going to call next? They're going to go to you because you're the expert. AI recommended you. It's like a referral from a trusted friend. So yeah, very, very cool. So you guys, as you launch the website, again, you're trying to move away into these more larger porches and decks. You're 2.5 months into it, roughly. What have been, say, some of the successes so far, and what have been some things that you have either adjusted or want to adjust?
So I'd say one of the biggest successes that I've seen so far, other than what we've already talked about with the better conversions and the more qualified leads that we've been getting, is the average project. Our average project size is, I think the last time I looked, is around 27 this year. So, you're talking, I don't know what that is.
Almost 35% roughly.
Yeah.
Increase.
So, so that's been really big. And I think that goes back to, just the feeling that the website is putting across that, like these guys, are not just like a guy that can build a deck or a porch. That's what these guys do. Beyond that, let's see. One of the challenges that we've seen is that we have had to, I'll be honest, like when we went into this, I had more like, I'm kind of an idealist. So when I went into this, I was like, oh, we're just going to flip the switch and, we're just going to put it out there that we're a porch and deck company. And all of a sudden, like, we're going to turn into a $5 million porch and deck builder. That I'd be lying if I didn't say that, that's not what happened so far. We're definitely building a lot of decks and porches, but we are, we're not to the point yet where we've been able to completely say no to all the other types of projects that we've done in the past. So we're still doing a fair amount of roofing. We're doing a whole home remodel right now. We're still doing, we're going to do a bathroom for a past customer. So we are still backfilling some of the revenue with some different types of projects while we, continue to just build off the foundation of the porches and decks. Eventually the goal is to, get to the point where, we just don't really have time or the capacity to be able to handle those types of projects. But it's just going to take a little bit.
Yeah,
time, maybe a little bit more time than I was hoping or expecting. But I think that's just me looking at it rose-colored glasses a little bit. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. As we were mentioning, we have another client similar to you. They were more handyman focused, and he was doing like $2 million in handyman. He now opposite market. He's over in Lake Tahoe, so it's a 75% of the homeowners there are vacation homes, and it's very seasonal. But he was doing $2 million in handyman work. I think we're a year and a half into it now with him. I just talked to him. He's going to be on a podcast if he hasn't already been out. Michael Wilson from Mr. Honeydew, and he's at 70-30 now. So he's doing 30% of his business is still handyman, and that's after a year and a half. And I think if I talked to him right, I said I think he, just because of his market specifics, like it's vacation homes and people are, it's a long distance relationship. I don't think he plans on eliminating that because of that. And he also wants to use it to keep his foot in the door for doing the larger remodeling projects. And he's moving into design, build, remodeling. But in about a year and a half, he's flipped his business from 100% handyman to now 30%. And then he's doing 70% design, build, remodeling. So now the focus is getting larger design, build, remodeling projects. He's doing a lot of bathrooms, a lot of basic kitchens, but he wants to get into bigger stuff. So yeah. I think it's we always talk about, it's like it takes about a year, to really get that flywheel going in the right direction. And it's exciting to see you guys have seen some good momentum here in 2.5 months, just by taking advantage of your current opportunities. You also mentioned operationally, so like I said, flipping that switch. You've had some challenges internally with operations. Maybe things didn't go as smooth as you thought they would, but share a few of those insights there.
Yeah. I will say, I should have mentioned this as one of the successes. So with being focused a little bit, I would say probably the number one thing that's happened since we did that is all the clarity that we've gotten since doing that. And what I mean by that is, before, we were doing this type of project this month and that type of project next month and just switching back and forth. And so we had a lot of things happening operationally, whether it's, different types of profit leaks or just inefficiencies, or we'd have employees that didn't have anything to do. We've been able to really, by focusing, we've really been able to identify where a lot of those are at. We haven't totally fixed all of them yet, but it's given us, now we can actually see, what's happening, why it's happening, and start working on investing the time into coming up with solutions for them. Where before it's like, we did a kitchen remodel. It's like, that didn't work out as good as we wanted it to. But
yeah,
how much time are you going to put into it when it might be another year before you do another kitchen?
It's a really good point in that when you're jumping back and forth so much, it's hard to really get a good gauge on, number one, are we good at it? And number two, are we making the profit that we should make at this project? Because you don't really take the time that you have enough to analyze. Is like, maybe we shouldn't be doing kitchens, right? Maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe that's an opportunity cost. Maybe we should be focusing on this. So internally, do you guys have lead carpenters on staff, or do you subcontract all that work?
So that was actually a change we made this spring. So historically, we've always had, 2-3 carpenters on staff, that would do all of our building. That's actually been one of the benefits of this. So the transition here is, so what we did this year is we took our lead carpenter and we essentially transitioned him into, he's essentially a job superintendent, project manager. So he's essentially running, doing all the ordering, the scheduling, setting up the crews, dealing with all the customer interaction once we start the project. So we have him doing that. And then as far as the building goes, we have two or I guess three crews, that at this point, we fully trained in, the way this is how we build decks and this is how we build porches. Mm-hmm. And, this is what we're looking for as far as quality, as far as, this is what we do on the job site. This is how we are around the homeowners, things like that. So, that's actually been, and with having our lead carpenter now managing the projects, he's able to be a lot more hands-on, so it's really helped a lot with our customer experience, because they know they have a dedicated person, once the sale is done, it transitions over to him. They know that if they have questions, they can talk to Sarge. He'll be out there every day. He gets the crew going. He makes sure that they know what they're doing, that they're doing it right. It just seems like the projects are moving a lot more efficiently. When we had employees, it seemed like we were always ending up with downtime because, whoever was selling it was managing it. So they'd get busy and then you kind of end up with this kind of a slinky effect where all of a sudden you'd be doing a bunch of building and then you have to go sell some projects and then you do some building and then you sell some projects, where now we kind of have the roles divided up a little bit better, where, the person that's managing the projects can just focus on managing the projects. The person that's selling the projects can just focus on selling the projects. Mm-hmm. And it's kept the pipeline moving along a lot more consistently than it was in the past.
When you say your crews now, you got 2 or 3 crews that are specializing in decks. I assume those are subcontractors?
They're subcontractors, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And that's like the ultimate, right, is where you don't have that overhead expenses of keeping those guys on payroll, but yet you can keep them busy enough so they just are working for you, and then you train them up the way you want stuff done.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really, one of the other benefits too of kind of switching over to that model is, when we had employees, we always had to find work for them. Mm-hmm. It didn't matter if it was, the busy season in May or June or it was the middle of January, we're paying them either way. So, what that forced us to do, because we had to do that, is it was really hard to get out of the trap of not taking on work that you really didn't want to do, because we just felt like we had to take this because the guys need something to do next week. So then all that time that we could be working on building up the porches and decks is now we got to keep managing and trying to figure out this project. And, if anybody listening to that has been in that situation, that those are definitely not your best projects when you get into the situation where you're taking them to keep guys busy.
Exactly. Yeah. So right now, and again, I know this is early on, we're not actually even 6 months into it, but what do you have for backlog of work? And I guess before you answer that, what percentage of your work now is decks and porches where you want to focus, and what percentage is, let's say, other stuff that you're trying to slowly wean yourself off of?
Yeah, I would say at this point we're about 60-40 decks and porches.
Oh, already? Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, we had a little bit of momentum coming out of last year with that, so we weren't starting,
Yeah, what were you at the end of last year for decks and porches?
I would say last year we were about half and half.
Okay, so you've gained about 10% then.
So far.
Yeah, and will you do about $2.5 million again this year, or what are you budgeted to do?
I mean, if we keep moving at the pace we're at, we're actually projecting to do probably more, probably right around 3.
Good for you.
Maybe in a little bit over 3. Yeah.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, having a little higher average sales price always helps a lot. And then I guess as you do more and more of the decks and porches, I'm guessing that average sales price is going to continue to creep up with those bigger projects.
Yeah, that's what we think too, and that's what we've seen so far. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think, getting back, I think one, it's the leads, and two, like I mentioned, with having breaking out the roles a little bit, the projects are moving along, it wasn't that we didn't have the capacity to maybe produce that much last year. It's that they would come, they would start, and they would stop, and they would start, and they would stop, where now we have projects that are getting built 5 days a week, every week. So it's really helped keep things moving, and, which as long as we can keep selling projects, we'll get there.
So as you do more and more of the decks and porches, have you incorporated design into your sales process with those decks and porches, or how are you handling that part of it?
Yeah. Yes and no to that. We have a designer we work with, and then we have kind of a deck drafter that we work with also. So at this point, we don't do that in-house. I think long-term, that's something that we'd probably want to do. But right now, it depends on the customer. We kind of give people the option. Some people are like, no, I know what I want. It's fine. Some people just want the confidence of, somebody on the outside saying, yeah, if you pick this deck color, it's going to look good with your siding, or if, but beyond that, I mean, we don't do a lot of through the sales process. I would say we're doing a lot of the design. It's important through the sales process. We're asking people, okay, like, how do you want to use the deck? What are you planning to do? If we build you a porch, how are you planning to use it? You want to use it 6 months out of the year? You want to use it 9 months out of the year? Do you just want to come out here a couple times in the summer? So that's all built into our sales process. But if you're talking about design, as far as like the drafting and draw plans and things like that, at this point, that's all we handle that.
Do you charge when you design during the sales process? Are you charging for that concept, or do you do it just to give a price?
We do. So the way that we do it, if it's not like a real straightforward deck, and the customer is just not sure, well, how big do I want it? Do I want to do this material versus that material? And they want to kind of see everything and weigh all the options. In that situation, we will sign a design and estimating agreement with the customer. Basically, we ask for a deposit. And that basically just covers a little bit of our time, but it mostly just covers our cost to get the design and the renderings completed. If they move forward with the project, we just treat that as basically part of their deposit.
Okay, so you credit it's not paid outside of contract. Well, I guess it's paid outside of contract, but then you credit it towards
as long as it moves forward.
Yeah. Okay. And do you work off of like flat fees or like a percentage of budget to do that design and estimating?
It depends. If it's a porch, we're usually like, with porches on bigger projects, we usually go 2%. If it's just a deck, it might be $500, $750, depending on the size of the deck.
But it's a decent amount. I mean, at $27,000 average sales price, it's a decent amount. So they're obviously pretty motivated and highly qualified to put down that amount. I'm guessing the conversion rate to design to construction is probably 90-95%.
Yeah, or more.
Or more.
Yeah, because I mean, I should be clear, when we do the design agreement, we're not totally just like, oh, it's going to be, between $10,000 and $100,000. Like, we've talked to them. We have a pretty good idea about what they want. We just don't know for sure all the details. So, we've given them a pretty good range. Our goal when we go into the design agreement is that we're going to be within 10% of what the final.
Oh, 10%. Okay.
10%. Yeah.
Sales price, so 10%. I mean, normally at design, build, remodelers, we try to get, in custom home builders, we try to get 20%. But yeah, 10% would make sense.
Yeah, I just, sometimes it's maybe not even necessary. A lot of companies might be like, we can maybe just skip over this and we'll just kind of figure it out as we go. One of the reasons I don't like to do that is because I hate dealing with a bunch of change orders for things that could have been figured out on the front end if we would have just put in a little bit of work and just talk through it. And, okay, you want to do this is what it's going to be. And if you want to do that, it's going to cost that. Instead of trying to figure this out on the fly, like, let's just figure it out. Let's spend a week or 2 weeks or whatever it is, and kind of work out some of these details so that once we get started, we can just build it.
I think having a robust pre-construction process where you are asking for the lead to commit. Okay, number one, it's good because you want to put a hurdle out there. You want to have them jump over it because now you have a committed lead and it's worth putting your time and effort into it, even if you're breaking even, let alone making money on this process. But number two, it's a much easier production experience for you guys. Plus, it's a much better experience for the lead. Make those decisions up front. It's a lot easier to make them on paper versus, trying to do a change order in the field. And when I was a GM for a custom home builder, we did every project we would go back and we would do an audit and we would look for variances. And inevitably, profit leaks would always show up in change orders. Right. I mean, it seems like if there was an issue, it was because of a change order and somewhere the ball got dropped and we would always lose money. So we really would focus on getting every possible selection made and done before we would turn it over into production. And we were also doing construction and perm financing. So we kind of had to do that just because we had limited a capability of doing, once that appraisal is done, of amending that loan amount, for a high volume change order. But you're right. It's a lot more work up front, especially the more complex the project, but man, is a lot easier on production. And I think it's a much better experience for the client as well.
It is. And it doesn't matter how many times you tell a customer like, oh, we don't really know yet, it might be more. They never think that it's more. And when you tell them it's more, they're like, I don't understand why it's more.
Right. You tell
them that's just a really hard conversation to have.
Like you said, they're going to focus on the 2000.
Yeah, I know. And it's, and that just, like you said, that just turns into a bad customer experience. It's not that they're necessarily mad that it's more. It's just, everybody, you get the number in your head and, it's going along great. And you're like, oh no, it's more money, and all of a sudden you take something that's, going to be a great project. They're going to be very happy when it's done. And now you turn the focus to, oh, it was, they charged me a little bit extra for this.
Yeah, right. Now, you mentioned you had to update your sales process as you made this transition or in the process make this transition. Is this part of your updates, adding this design and estimating aspect to your sales process?
It is. Yeah. We always kind of had it a little bit, but we're definitely being more intentional about using it more. Mm-hmm. And that's for the reasons we talked about, but also it's a good differentiator. It's most people when they call up, a deck builder or a porch builder or any remodeler builder, they just think that the process goes, I'm going to call you, you're going to come to my house, you're going to give me a price, and I'm going to call 10 other people, and they're all going to do the same thing. Mm-hmm. We did that for a lot of years, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work great. You end up wasting a lot of time, spend a lot of time with the wrong people, and really the biggest problem with it is all the time you spend with the wrong people is time that could have been spent with the right people,
the right ones.
So you're giving your time to people that were probably never going to buy from you, and you're giving that time to those people, and you could be focusing on the customers that do really want to work with you. They really like what you have to offer. They like your company. They like what you build, and so you're giving up a little bit. You're giving up a lot of the experience for your good customers for your bad ones by just doing whatever the customer wants to do versus no, let's just slow down a little bit. It's not we're going to get through it. It's just we're going to start here, and this is step one, and then step 2, step 3, step 4, and we have a 5-step process all the way through the build.
Yeah, it's a very, very important part. And I go back to that, what you talked about, that qualifying call, that 10 to 30 minute phone call up front. That is such an important call to just ask the right questions, make sure you're on the same page with the lead. The lead's values what you bring to the table. I always used to say is like, I talk to a builder and say, look, you got to start charging for design and estimating. Well, nobody in my market does that. And I said, yeah, I understand that, but that's exactly why you need to do it, because your competitors understand the value of their time. But the concern is always like nobody else does it, so therefore I can't do it. And I think what you find is like what you just said, Jason, is that you find leads that appreciate that you're going to go over and above what they're going to get with a quote unquote bid, because you're going to try to make those unknowns known, clarify things, do a lot of that pre-construction work. so that when you get to that price, you pretty much nailed it, versus having all those open ends and then, finding out I'm way over budget in the middle of the project. And of course that kills your referrals, leads you to potentially a negative review, which you're going to be paying for a long time. And ultimately it puts a tremendous amount of stress on your production people and your project managers too.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. And the sales guy, because all of a sudden you're getting yanked back in because you're like, you told me this.
Yeah, I know it. Yeah. Yep.
So,
and I think you asked about backlog. And so right now we're about 6 weeks out. And so, previously we didn't have as much backlog, but having that backlog has definitely freed up the time. We don't have to get a project for tomorrow, so having that backlog has really opened us up to be able to really implement the sales process like we want to, because, it's okay if it takes, 3 weeks or 4 weeks to get all the way through it versus 1 week, because we have the time to get through the process.
Yeah. Interesting. There's some psychology to going, and I want to talk about you mentioned, I think you almost had too many leads, like in April and May. You guys are pretty overwhelmed. One of the things when you talk about backlog, we're talking about production, but there is a psychology that goes with backlogging that intake phone call. Is that as I was telling another one of our builder clients the other day, I'm like, play hard to get. It's just like, remember when that popular girl in high school and everyone wanted to date her and everyone was afraid to talk to her? She was playing hard to get. I go, you got to be that as a builder too. Is like, you got to play hard to get, because you want to plant the seed subconsciously. Is like, hey, these guys are so busy, I have to wait 3 days to be able to, book a call with them, because they are the go-to builder in my local market. So there's some psychology that goes with that as well. So I always say, it's like, don't let them book a call same day. Sometimes make them wait 24 hours or at least a few business hours, so that it looks like you guys are very busy helping other people. Subconsciously, nobody wants to pick the wrong builder. And when they think like, hey, all my neighbors or community people, they're choosing, personal pride to do their project. Oh, I guess I'm on the right track. And you kind of alluded to that. I'm on the website now. This is different. It's a different process. I'm on the right track.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's I don't know how it came to be, in the home services, home improvement industry, but it's so much different than any other professional service out there. There isn't any other professional service that you're not going to call up your doctor and be like, oh, I don't feel good. Can you come over to my house and just like, let me know what you think? And, if I need to get a surgery, can you just let me know? And then I'll just get back to you, at some point. I'll just let you know. Like that, it doesn't work with, a lawyer or a doctor or, any other professional service. They all charge you. They all expect you to follow the way that they do it. I don't know how we got to the point where we just are like, oh, we just have to run out there and we got to do whatever they want us to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agree 100%. You are a remodeling advisor. You are a new home advisor, and because ultimately, what are you selling? They have a hope for lifestyle. They don't know how to achieve it, and they're looking to hire an advisor that's going to help them get there. The production capabilities that you have, the sticks and bricks, are always secondary, because when they're thinking, you're talking about that process, like they can't visualize their deck. You're helping them understand, well, what do you want to do in your deck? Mm-hmm. Right? Okay, well, if you want to do this, then we should design it this way. Well, what do you want to do is all around lifestyle. Are we entertaining? Is it for cooking or barbecuing, or what is the ultimate goal that you have? Once they have those conversations with you, that's where trust and value is established. Like when you're making suggestions on the design and or the materials to use because of what their lifestyle goals are, they bought you, man. They're going to say, yep, who do I write the check to? And what's the next step?
Right. Yeah. And I shouldn't be too hard on the customers, but because a lot of them just don't understand. I think genuinely, a lot of people think that it's easy for us to just go out there and put together a nice proposal and get a price together for whatever they want to do. And what if we do this? And what if we do that? So there is a little bit of education involved as far as like why we do the process the way that we do it. It's not just, stick to our process, or we're, go find somebody. Like, it's not like that. There is a little bit of explaining that has to be done as far as like, okay, this is why we do it. This is for your benefit, really, at the end of the day, not necessarily, not even so much ours.
Yeah. And it starts on your website,
Yeah.
Looking at your process and your walkthrough and your case studies and your testimonials. I always say that, if you're not setting expectations, your clients are going to set them, and you're never going to meet their expectations. So yeah, you have to take that time to walk through. Value as an equation is always price performance divided by quality perception. So until you've established value with that client, they're always going to ask, well, what's the price per square foot, or how much for this? As soon as they see value for your services and you playing an advisory role, they're going to say, okay, Jason, what's the next step? Because then they're buying your process, and they understand they have to go through your process in order to answer the question, what am I going to get? How much is it going to cost? And when can I be enjoying it?
Yeah.
At the end of the day. One more thing I wanted to touch on here too, is you talked about vendor relationships changing as you went through this, or going through this transformation. But what specifically were you referring to there?
I mean, the big thing is, when we were doing like all kinds of different projects, we buy a little bit of lumber, we buy a little bit of windows, buy a little bit of roofing, we buy a little bit of decking. Not to say that they weren't taking care of us, but since we've become one of their bigger customers, the customer service on their end back to us has really increased.
Interesting.
Yeah, they definitely pay more attention to us than they maybe did in the past. It's also opened up, some different through manufacturers. It's opened up some different rebates for us for different materials and things like that too. So that's been kind of cool. I didn't expect that, but yeah, we've got a little bit of that too. So and the other thing too is, thankfully we don't run into it too much. But the manufacturers, if we do run into a warranty issue, because they know that we install a lot of their product, they know that we're installing it correctly. So when we call them up and say, hey, we've got a problem with the ceiling material, for example, they just say, okay, well, what do you want to do? You want to give the customer a credit? You want to take it all down and redo it? And say, we let the customer decide what they want to do, but they're more than willing to just, whatever you guys need. We know that you guys are doing it right. We know that, this isn't just, installation was poor. So they definitely take care of us very well on the back end too, in the rare instance that we do have an issue.
Yeah, one of the benefits of becoming the big fish, or bigger fish anyway, is that you're on their radar versus like sort of like a fly that keeps buzzing in their face. Right. Very, very interesting. We have three phases when we partner with builders. We have a build phase, we have an attract phase, we have a growth phase. So you're nearing the end of your attract phase. Looking ahead, as you look at your growth, you said you might touch 3 million here, but looking even into 2027 and beyond, what are your plans for the company going forward, both for whether it's operations or marketing, or what are you thinking there?
Yeah, eventually, the number that I have in my head is I'd like to get to 5 million. That's kind of the I'd say maybe a 3-year goal. And the big thing with that is I'd like to get to doing that level of revenue, where we're doing, 80, 90% porches and decks. And then, basically the other 10, 20% of projects we're doing is just, customer referrals for a roof, or, a customer coming back that built a deck and now they want to do windows or something like that.
Sure.
But yeah, that's kind of the 3-year goal. The other big thing that we do want to do, probably within hopefully the next year, is we'd really like to get a space where we can build a showroom.
Oh, sure. Okay.
So we want to build a showroom where we can kind of display all the different material options. Go along with that is, at that point, we'd really like to have a designer in-house. so that somebody can set up an appointment. They can come in, say, I want to build a deck or a porch. They can work directly with the designer, who will also be drawing the plans, and they can essentially just all in one spot start drawing it. Okay, what do you think about this material here in the showroom? Let's go see what it's going to look like on your house, and really kind of streamline that process.
Sure. Okay. Well, didn't you just, I think the guys on my team were just telling me that you just opened a second location, or you're going to be opening a second location?
We did, yeah. So this is something we're just kind of beta testing, I guess. So yeah, we opened up another. It's just a single office in Medina. You know where that is, but it's maybe a half hour west of where our primary office is. And so the idea, I know it's going to take a little bit of time because we kind of got to build up some reviews and build up the GBP a little bit, but we're trying to play with, Google searches are all very, my understanding is they're all very geographically targeted. So if somebody
map searches.
Yeah. So if somebody, the idea is if we have an office in, out west, we have our office in Golden Valley, which is kind of central. Eventually we can get one more in the north, Champlain, Blaine, something like that, and start to, Google's going to be like, oh, wow, these guys cover these areas. And, they have all these different people all around the different parts of the metro, talking about these guys building the deck for them. Like these guys, we definitely should be recommending this company to whoever is searching for that type of service.
Sure. Yeah. So if you do a showroom, would it be in one of your current locations, or would that be a third location?
Probably it with the two spaces that we have right now, I would say it's probably going to have to be a third location.
Yeah. Okay. So then you strategically put that in maybe halfway in between or into another market you're trying to go after.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the and with AI visibility right now, and a lot of the things that we can do there as well, having those multiple profiles, those multiple, and then building reviews up at each of them, that's going to add a lot of authoritativeness to what you're after in those specific locations, as well as the type of services that you're offering. So you'll be able to capitalize on that with SEO, AEO, GEO type work as well. So it's a neat strategy. Very, very interesting. I like it. Showrooms are popular. Showrooms are great in that because we talked about playing hard to get as a builder, but once you get into more of that design aspects of things, then the designer comes the carrot, right? It's like, hey, if you do this, now we can line you up with a designer, come to our showroom. And of course, a lot of that drives a lot of people to want to move the process forward, and you can get a commitment from them in order to do that. So yeah, that's great. Well, congratulations, I guess, so far. I mean, you've had some very quick success. It doesn't always happen this fast, but the fact that let's recap here. So you started capturing more of your current opportunities that you already had there. You've been able to increase your average sales price almost 35% in a matter of a couple of months. You've increased the type of work you want to do by 10% already, and things go well, you will have increased revenue by 25% in 2026 in 1 year. I mean, that's awesome work, Jason.
Thank you. Thanks. It's exciting. It's every day, you got to earn it every day. It's not like
nobody's giving it away.
Yeah. No, it's you got to earn every project. So, we're just trying to take it one project at a time, one customer at a time. And, as long as we keep doing what we think are the right things and working with the right people, as far as we can tell, it's just going to keep moving in the right direction.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love to hear success stories. And right, it's like, your overnight success only took 25 years to get there, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's kind of funny though. It's like you make these big moves. And it's like, well, you're only 3 months into it or 6 months into it. It's like, well, no, it's everything I learned for the last umpteen years that allows me to make the right decisions, and so I can get to that point, in 3, 6, 12 months.
Yeah, there's a lot of forks in the road.
A lot of forks in the road, yeah. And I should mention too, you were doing coaching for a while last year. I know you're not in active coaching right now with 4 Level coach, 4-level integrators. And are you doing any other coaching, or are you involved in like NARI or any other associations right now?
We're not currently. We're kind of just taking what we learned through 4-level and just trying to implement a lot of that. So we learned a lot of really good things through those guys. And one of the biggest kind of really pushed us over the edge into like, okay, we really need to focus on this is, with 4-level and any of that group coaching like that, you really get to kind of see behind the scenes as far as like what different companies are doing, how they're doing it, who's successful, who isn't. And it was very obvious in the 6 months or so that we were with them that the people that really like decided this is what we're going to do, this is who we want to do it for, we're definitely the companies that were either already really successful or we're definitely moving in the direction that they wanted to go. Yeah,
it's you learn new things and you also get validated you're doing the right things or have done the right things as well. I would say, but hands down, any of our builder partners that have been actively coaching, are actively involved and they understand their numbers, they've got accountability, they're by far the most successful. And obviously I think you're falling into that category as well with the gains you've made in such a short amount of time. So it's great to see. I love to see like I said, the overnight success story that only took 20 years to get there. I guess let's wrap it up with this as far as any other builder out there that is maybe, your story of leading up to going through this metamorphosis that's, sitting there going, hey, what would I do first? What would I do next? What would any word of advice or wisdom you could offer them if they want to do something similar to what you want to do?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing to do is just decide you want to do it. When we were talking about at the beginning of the podcast about marketing and diluting resources, the longer you stay trying to do this project and that project and say we're this company and that company, you're just diluting, your own resources. So the main thing is just decide to do it. Know that when you do it, it's not going to all of a sudden, you're not going to wake up tomorrow and be like, oh, we finally have arrived. It's going to take time. It's going to be a process. But once you get into it and you start doing it, you'll be happy you did. I know that. I promise you that.
Very good. So Jason, again, what's the website?
Yeah, it's personalprideconstruction.com.
So go check it out. See what these guys are doing. Great story. Thank you so much for joining us on Conversations that Convert. And hopefully we'll have this episode out sooner than later, but it'll be really fun to see you guys continue that trajectory and see what's next for you, because it's been a wild ride so far, and I'm just feeling blessed that we can be part of it. So thank you for partnering with us as well.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks to your team. You get your whole team has been top notch. So I'll just give them a little bit of a plug. But we've worked with a lot of marketing companies, and your team is by and far the best one we've worked with. So.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you very much. I always say we have the best people in the world working for us. So yeah, they're great. I will definitely pass that on. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So thank you too for listening to Conversations That Convert. And for my brothers and sisters in Christ, may the grace of the Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with you all always. We'll see you next time on